This video is brought to you by a huge mountain of drugs. Okay, while we're waiting for a game, why don't we go over the deck list very quickly. Pretty simple really. This, I'm thinking it's going to be the new Edric of 1v1. You deal damage and you draw a load of cards, etc. and so forth. So this is a mono green version of that. There aren't as many little unblockable creatures in mono green as there are when you have blue available to you. So we've had to go with a little bit of a token strategy as well, with things like Wolverine Riders is a really good new one. Obviously Avenger of Zendikar is a staple. What else have we got here? Yeah, stuff like Soul of the Harvest is in here for more card draw because we're a very creature heavy deck. Thunderfoot Baloth is a cheaty, cheap Craterhoof Behemoth. More token production in Tendershoot Dryad, Scoot Swarm, things like that. And then more creature based card draw as well in Ore and Frostfang. That is like another Toski for us in a way. Yeah, not really a whole lot to say about it, and as I say that, a game is starting up. The other thing to point out really is lore. We've got lore in enchantment form, and then we've got the equipment based version, which is not that. It is Nemesis Mask. Put that on your commander, they're forced to block your indestructible commander, and then you can get a bunch of other creatures through, deal damage, draw cards. But like I said, other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory stuff really. We will start the game. And up against Tolsimir Wolfblood. That looks like a pretty good opening hand. We'll get down a Mana Dork on turn 1, because we want to get Summoning Sickness away from things as quickly as we can. Oh, that was another thing that we've got in the deck. We've got the Sword of Feast and Famine and Bear Umbra, so that when we deal damage to our opponents, we will untap all of our lands so we can tap out and then untap and probably just tap out again during the second main. So now we've got 3 mana available to us, so we're just going Mirri's Gale here, and we will save the shuffle effect for if we don't like what we're seeing with Mirri's Gale. So let's just hit our opponent for 1. They got down Forbidding Watchtower, by the way, which becomes a 1/5 for 2 mana. Might be relevant this game, because I think Intimidate on the Bellowing Tangleworm. Oh, it's not colourless creatures, it's artifact creatures. So we'll still be able to get through the manland, even though it is colourless. Mirri's Gale triggers. And we've got Guardian Project, another Dork in Elvish Mystic, and War Room. If we go for a 4th land and Toski here, then I'm not sure we want the Dork, to be honest. Let's go Guardian Project. We'll draw into the Dork. Let's put the War Room on top. We'll draw into the Dork. And then hopefully in the top 3 there'll be another land, but let's shuffle all that stuff away. And with that, we will go after our Toski. Obviously untap the tapped forest. And then with no haste, but I mean a turn 3 Toski is not bad at all. Alright, we've got different cards on top now. A Seeker's Chariot. We're getting into some of the more expensive stuff, unfortunately. I think... what are we casting here? We've got 3 mana or 3 lands. They have tapped creatures. You control can block us or they weren't tapped. That's a 2/1, so we can still swing into that. Yeah, I think we just go for... yeah, I think we just go for the land here. Don't mind drawing into 3 visits. So let's drop that. We'll put the Bear Umbra onto Toski. Doesn't really matter that we've got the Totem Armor on there. We might be forced to sacrifice our commander and that might be relevant, but really we just want to be consistently hitting with Toski because they might not want to block here. So let's go for drawing 2 cards. We can offer up the trade for the Masako. Either way, we're going to untap our lands because we don't have to hit with the Bear Umbra, we just have to attack. And as I assumed, they decide not to block, so we'll draw the 2 cards that we know is on top. I think we'll just go a Seeker's Chariot here, just so that we can get more damage through. A Seeker's Chariot is a new one from the new set. For anyone who doesn't know, it's crew 4 for a 4/4 artifact, and when it attacks, create a token copy of a token you control. So that's not necessarily going to be relevant. I mean, it does make its own tokens, but we'll probably just have to tap these tokens down to crew it. So it's probably just going to sit there. Okay, an O-ring. And they managed to get rid of our Toski there, so yeah, we're just recasting Toski next turn, I think. They won't have too many exile effects like that. They might get into both Swords and Path if they're really lucky. And then, alright, Aurum Frostfang is really good as well. We could just drop the Aurum Frostfang, I suppose. Yeah, and then we're hitting with the cats. Should really start ramping, but yeah, we can draw into those two pieces. And the forest can enchant itself with a Utopia Sprawl, so yeah, let's go Aurum Frostfang here. They are holding up a single white mana, so they might have more removal for us, but we're trading with their white creature either way. Okay, looks like they do have some more removal, so there's Swords to Plowshares. It's really just Path to Exile that we're waiting on now. I'm still going to attack into them and offer up the trade. This is a good test of how resilient the deck can be, actually. I have very high hopes for this deck, because I do think that it's going to be very resilient, just like Edric is. Okay, ooh, going for a Putrefax, alright, so they've got some Infect that we're going to have to work around. Hitting us for 5 Infect. So in that case, we didn't draw the cards like we thought we would. We can generate more mana with the Utopia Sprawl, because we can enchant a land and then untap it with Arbor Elf. So let's do that. And that generates an additional green mana, so that means the Arbor Elf taps that, or when we tap it down for mana, then the Arbor Elf will untap it, tap it down again, and then we get down our Toski. And we just have to hope that they don't manage to get us on Infect. We do have an Indestructible in the way now, at least. Draw into some cards. We'll just drop down a Forest, get a Mana Dork into play. Vesuva coming down as a copy of the Manland, but it does come in tapped. And yeah, I had a feeling they'd have something like that, going for some reanimation in Resurrection. So this does have Trample. We do have to block here. Let's just block with both, because I don't know what proliferation stuff they have. So going to 8 commander damage, or 8 infect damage even. They have 2 cards in hand and we haven't seen their commander yet. And there's a Beast Within. Could probably play around any more infect stuff, but it's probably Proliferate that we want to play around at this point. Let's go for the Nykthos on top. Draw into that and then shuffle away with the Prismatic Vista, all the other stuff. So tap that, untap, then tap it down again. Do we think that they've got another means of getting Hasty Infect on us? I think in the aggro deck we just need to try and out-aggro them at this point. Not worthy, we've got 1 mana held up, so we could have gone for the 3 visits first. Probably should have done that. I think we just hold back here. We can always animate the Seeker's Chariot and try and block something, if we're not going to use that anyway. Now a Howling Mine. The last thing we need is help drawing cards, but if they keep managing to get rid of our Toski, then yeah, maybe we do need help. Now, gain 1 life. If you have 10 more life than your starting life total, then you can start having your opponent lose 5 life per activation. Not worried about that one jot. They've got 1 card in hand, so I'm really just worried about the Infect at this point, really. Not swinging into us, so we'll get round to our turn. It's more lands, Concordant Crossroads. I really cannot play here, so let's get... yeah, we'll get the fetch so that we can carry on shuffling with Miri's Guile, but we'll play the Nykthos here and shuffle with the 3 visits. Oh, we end up drawing 2 things, don't we? Thanks to Howling Mine, forgot about that. So let's drop the Nykthos. We've got Devotion to green of 1, 2, 3 and 4, so... oh, and 5 with Utopia Sprawl. So not bad. Let's shuffle things around with the 3 visits. And then we'll make ourselves 5 mana with Bellowing Tangleworm. And we've got 4 mana held up for anything that we draw into. So they can't block anything until they get into a green creature, which they will have in the command zone. I think the wolf is green as well. It's green and white, so they'll have 2 creatures to fight against the Intimidate. Noteworthy as well, actually. We could have animated the Seeker's Chariot with the Bellowing Tangleworm. So maybe should have done that. But in the meantime, let's swing in with all 4 creatures. Even if they get rid of the Bellowing Tangleworm, I'm not worried. I'm quite happy to lose the Masako. And it looks like we're finally getting some damage on our opponent with Toski in play, so we will draw 4 cards. This is the thing that our opponent has been frantically trying to avoid. We've got Lightning Greaves and Jolriel, so I think we'll go like that, start making some more tokens with Jolriel. This has been a card that I've wanted to play for the longest time, but haven't had any use for it anywhere. This is the perfect deck to run it in. Throw down the Lightning Greaves, and we'll just protect the biggest creature we've got. Now the problem is our opponent is going to start drawing more cards as well, gaining some life with the Chalice. And there's their commander. So that might suggest that they don't really have anything. I think they've played a land because they've got 2 cards in hand now. And they are just eager to get themselves into some creatures that can block. Okay, so we've got Manglehorn. Might go after the Howling Mine with that, I think. An unblockable creature as well. Yeah, maybe this is the thing to go for, so that we can land more damage onto them. Now let's go for the Manglehorn. Oh, and again, forgetting about the Howling Mine. Thinking about removing it and forgetting about what it actually does. So we'll get another token from the Jolriel for drawing a 2nd card. And now I feel okay shuffling away that land that's on top in the hope that we don't get into any more lands. And then we'll start off with Champion of Lamholt. We actually have the win with Champion of Lamholt, don't we? Yeah. Okay, so just to make sure there might be a Swords or a Path or something, we'll just put the Greaves on there straight away. But I think we've got it here. This cares about power as far as I'm aware. So let's put the Greaves onto Champion of Lamholt, and then we'll make some Green Devotion. Go for the Manglehorn. Just going to play a few creatures to buff up the champion. Manglehorn can rid us of the Howling Mine, we don't need it. And we'll go for the Ledgewalker as well, just to buff up the Champion of Lamholt. And we could just swing in here, but we'll throw down the Lignify onto their commander just in case they manage to survive this combat step. Throw it onto their Tolsimir. Put down a Skull Clamp just for the sake of making use of the mana. And we'll put that onto the Manglehorn. And that's made good use of our mana. Let's crew the Seeker's Chariot and we'll tap down the Manglehorn and a cat that we got from the Jolriel. Okay, and with 1 mana wasted, we are going to swing in. I'm pretty confident that we've got it here. Oh, our opponent's tapped out, so I think they're trying to show us that we've got it. They're graciously allowing us to actually get the victory here, I think. So we'll just turn everything in sideways. We'll make a token copy of one of the cats with a Seeker, which triggers the Champion of Lamholt. Champion of Lamholt does trigger on tokens entering as well. That is a really, really good creature. And there we are. Big thank you to my opponent for playing that out instead of just scooping. So we would have gotten 2, 4, 6 and 8 triggers, which is drawing 8 cards, of course. Let's see what we draw into. A bunch of lands. We've only got 34 in the deck, but we don't seem to have trouble drawing into them. Might duck that down to 32. But yeah, there's a little bit of a token sub-theme going on here so that we can get lots of creatures through. We don't really care about damage in the early game. It's just hitting our opponent for a little bit of something. So we do have things like the Tendershoot Dryad and Avenger of Zendikar for token production. What are the other 2 that I'm thinking of? Yeah, the Deep Forest Hermit and the Deranged Hermit. That's just instant token production. And then if you've got the, Concordant Crossroads in play, then you can swing in with those tokens immediately and start drawing cards. Tie that up with something like Sword of Feast and Famine and the Bear Umbra, and you ought to be able to cast a lot of spells that you've just drawn into on your second main phase. So yeah, it all pulls together very nicely, I think. We saw some decent removal there from our opponent, and they nearly got us on Infect as well, so I'll do a bit more playtesting and we'll see how we fare with it. Alright, we'll get a second one in and see how this goes up against Kaikar Wind's Fury. And yeah, that's a decent hand, I think. Worst case scenario, we can go for the Skull Clamp. Be nice to get into some ramp, but we've got Unblockable and Haste and some removal. And there is Miri Cat Warrior. Not sure about that one. That is First Strike, Forest Walk and Vigilance on a 2-3. Yeah, I might pull that one out. It's a bit too expensive for what it does. Our opponent went for Searing Visions on turn 1, and now they are dropping an Everflowing Chalice with 1 counter on it, and looking at our hand with Gitaxian Probe. That is a Llanowar Elves, so that means we've got a turn 3 commander, so yeah, let's get that down. And we'll tempt them with the Skull Clamp. I think I'd rather have Haste with the Lightning Greaves. It's seldom that I say that I want to tempt someone with a Skull Clamp, but we actually don't really need the card draw from Skull Clamp in this deck most of the time. We can just go for Toski and obviously draw a bunch of cards with that. Now, Anointed Procession for double the tokens. They are missing red mana, so let's drop our commander here. And we'll get a card draw with the Spire Tracer. And there we go, some ramp in Nature's Law, so might just concentrate on a Nature's Law and a Lightning Greaves next turn. And they've gotten into the red mana there, luckily. So it's Path to Exile on our commander. I will take the mana from that. Might still concentrate on ramp and Lightning Greaves next turn, just so that we can keep going for Toski over and over again. Then a Time Twister, so it seems to be the typical version of Kaikar. We still get into ramp. I like that Gaia's Cradle. We get the Nature's Law back. So we can just drop the Toski, really, can't we? And then we get the Lightning Greaves back. Okay, so yeah, do we ramp here? Let's drop Gaia's Cradle. Yeah, let's ramp here. We'll go for the Deep Forest Hermit. That will make some squirrels. Tap down Gaia's Cradle for 7 mana. We'll go Lightning Greaves and Nature's Law. Our opponent's still at 6 cards in hand. We can just put Skull Clamp on one of the squirrels. Put Lightning Greaves on said squirrel, just to deal a little bit more damage. And then let's turn the 2 creatures in sideways at them. And then we'll put the Lightning Greaves back on the Deep Forest Hermit, just to give them multiple things to worry about if we've got a buff on the squirrels. So they've got a token doubler, they've got fast mana, wheels, removal. Might be fighting an uphill struggle here, but we'll just hope that we can outpace them. A Mox Amber, so it seems to be a very finely tuned list from Kaikar. We'll want to make our creatures unblockable, really. And there is Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. So that's a 2-4 that will be decent at blocking. Is it Signet down to 3 cards? They haven't gotten into any of their card draw yet. Starting to sacrifice spirits so that they gain life with the Daxos and gain some mana as well. Searing Visions, all the while gaining more life. And we get into Bear Umbra. Okay, I quite like Bear Umbra. Alright, so we'll play a Forest, tap down the Gaia's Cradle, go for Toski. Then put the Bear Umbra onto Toski. With Totem Armor, does it put it back into play or into your hand? Oh, you destroy the aura instead, so yeah, we could keep the Deep Forest Hermit in play with that. That's a little combo that I didn't think of. Anyway, we'll put the Lightning Greaves onto our commander. And just going to swing in with everything here, I think. Untap all the lands with Toski, including the Gaia's Cradle, which is the thing our opponent ought to worry about the most. No unblockable for us or Death Touch or anything, unfortunately. So we might just lose a bunch of creatures and not really gain anything from it here. But if they're getting rid of our Lord, it does make these squirrels more relevant with Skull Clamp. So we lose pretty much all of our creatures here. But it's less mana for them with the Kaikar as well. So we get through with one creature, draw with the Toski, and we lose a creature to the Skull Clamp. So we'll draw 2 there as well. This makes our Gaia's Cradle much less potent, but hopefully we'll draw into something decent here. Alright, a Jolriel and a Soul of the Harvest. And Bow of Nylea, that's good. So in that case, let's drop the Jolriel. Then it's 3 mana, Bow of Nylea. And we've got a Lightning Greaves anyway, so I think I want to get rid of the squirrel here and just draw some cards while we can. Because we've got the Greaves to put on a creature that we can play next turn. Alright, let's just drop the Miri Cat Warrior. Thinking the Tendershoot Dryad might be a bit too slow for this deck. Might only keep one of the 2 card draw big creatures as well. They get their own Lightning Greaves. I was hoping for Song of the Dryads or Lignify for their commander. That ought to switch their deck off, but we'll need some artifact removal as well now. Hercule's Recall, bouncing all the artifacts. So yeah, this is pretty much a Joyra style list, isn't it? Tapping down all your dorks, so I won't be surprised if we see the 5 mana enchantment, or a 5 mana artifact even. I forget what it's called, the one that untaps all of your rocks whenever you cast a spell, I think it is. The one that got banned in every other format. Anyway, recasting all of their rocks. And then sacrificing spirits for mana. Noteworthy that they haven't got the Lightning Greaves into play again yet. Going for Everflowing Chalice, kicked it twice this time. So I dare say there's some kind of storm card in all of this as well. And there's that Lightning Greaves. Goes straight onto their Kaikar. And they have 2 cards in hand with double blue held up. They've got the Mox Amber for more blue, some colourless, yeah, so 5 mana in total, hitting us for 3 with the Kaikar. Oh, and that's just what we wanted, Bellowing Tangleworm, so can we dodge counter magic is the question. We've got 7 mana. If we tap down 5, that'll be 2 held up and then 3 from the Gaia's Cradle. Yeah, we can tempt them. We'll go for the Tendershoot Dryad. And they are holding up priority, but deciding to let that down. So let's try ourselves a Bellowing Tangleworm. And if they've got removal, they can respond to equipping with the Lightning Greaves anyway, so let's just go for the Skull Clamp on that. And then we'll put the Greaves over there as well. Now they're going for something, so it's blue mana they're tapping down. I assume it's some kind of bounce spell. Or maybe it's just Cyclonic Rift. Nope, it's Capsize. And they've cast that with Buyback. So bouncing the Bellowing Tangleworm. So we know they've got the Buyback card at least. We'll just leave the Lightning Greaves on our Toski and we'll swing in with it. Because we're going to untap all of our lands here. And they just jump with a Spirit, as you would expect. Still gaining life. They're gaining a bunch of life from the Daxos. Let's throw down, in that case, we'll go for Soul of the Harvest. And we will go for the Bellowing Tangleworm again. And encourage them to go for this whole buyback thing. If we give them enough threats, then hopefully we'll be able to outpace them here. Anyway, draw a card with Soul of the Harvest, which triggers the Jolriel, because that's the second card we've drawn this turn, so we get a token as well. And we drew into Arcane Signet, so yeah, a Swiftfoot Boots for the Bellowing Tangleworm would be nice. Then they'd have to bounce the boots out of the way and then the Tangleworm. We do have the City's Blessing now as well, so they do have to worry about the Tendershoot Dryad making 3/3 Saprolings. Although maybe not if they're gaining a bunch of life from spirits every turn. A big X spell should be able to do some damage to us. That is a tapped Scryland. Then it's through to combat. They might just hit us with a bunch of spirits and then continue to chain off a bunch of spells. Swinging in with Kaikar, looks like they're taking some, yep, all the spirits into us, knocking us down to 12. And then it is Impact Tremors, so we know the card they've got in hand. And they do have double tokens as well, so they've got double blue twice, which means they can cast the bounce spell twice. So all it means really is I don't think we can get them here, can we? That is Scrib Sprites. Let's throw down the land. Go for Lightning Greaves onto Bellowing Tangleworm. Don't think we can get them here. We don't have enough damage on board, but they let us have that anyway. So we'll go for Primordial Sage, which lets us draw a card. Gets us into Beastmaster Ascension. Yeah, it's that bounce spell. If we could stop them using the bounce spell somehow, which I don't think we can. Let's go Scrib Sprites, which will draw us a couple of cards. And there's another one, Beast Whisperer. So if we can get into another creature here, which we cannot, let's try the Beast Whisperer. And this is our version of chaining off. We just have been controlled nicely by the control player, but it's still a good example of what we want to do in the deck. Yeah, and we can't really make use, or we can make use of Skull Clamp on the Scrib Sprites. So let's draw a couple of cards there. Get into Wild Growth, there is a Dragonfly. We need to hold up enough mana for the Beastmaster Ascension. So if we go like that onto a Wild Growth, or a Wild Growth onto a Forest, I should say. Tap that down and go for the Dragonfly. That'll draw us 3 cards from the Beast Whisperer, Primordial Sage, and the Soul of the Harvest. Okay, 3 visits, so let's just try and give our opponent something to worry about here. We'll go for... Can we go wide on them here? I don't think we can go wide on them. Let's try and protect our Toski, as opposed to the Bellowing Tangleworm, because I think they're going to bounce the Beastmaster Ascension anyway. Is that what they're going to do? They can bounce 2 things is the problem. That spell has really saved them here. There's nothing we can do in the second main anyway. We can't do any more damage after combat, so... Wait for the obnoxiously loud vehicles to go past. Right, so we've gone back onto Bellowing Tangleworm. They don't seem to be taking the bait there. So let's go Beastmaster Ascension. Don't have haste from the Concordant Crossroads, unfortunately. So we'll just go through to combat, see what they want to do. And now they're going for the bounce stuff. They'll get tokens when they go for this as well, although if we keep the Tangleworm in play, then we don't necessarily care about that. So forcing their hand there with a Capsize. And the Capsize, I assume, is pointed at the... Oh no, that's pointed at our commander. Don't really care about drawing cards at this point, or untapping lands. We really just want to get through with a bunch of damage with Intimidate. Anyway, triggering Impact Tremors every time they cast a non-creature spell. And we've got exactly 7 creatures to go in with the Beastmaster Ascension here. Yeah, and this time Capsize going on to the Beastmaster Ascension, so that's us done. Not sure if we would have been able to get them anyway. It would have been plus 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Yeah, we probably could have got them if it wasn't for the Capsize, so... This is obviously a very well-tuned Kaikar deck. I don't feel too bad about losing my second game against a very well-tuned Jeskai control list, because obviously we've got some tweaking to do here. Still not sure about both Primordial Sage and Soul of the Harvest. Yeah, we'll go through the deck list here. We'll give our opponent the chance to take us out in one fell swoop. We are tapped out here, so they should just swing in at us and... Alright, they've paused there and they're taking their time, so I'm just going to say good game. All our opponent has to do is turn in sideways and they've got us there, so let's go through to the deck list, and I'm not entirely sure what we want to get rid of and what we want to keep. I mean, 2 games isn't really a fair shake just yet.